A question for you. What happens when faith, reason, and raw emotion collide within one family? A murder, a trial, and three brothers, each representing a different path of the human soul. This is the Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky's final masterpiece, a novel so deep, so philosophical, so explosive. It changed world literature forever. At the center is the father, Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov, a vulgar, greedy, lustful man, and his sons, Dmitri, the impulsive sensualist, driven by emotion and honor, Ivan, the intellectual, cold and logical, a man of science, Alyosha, the spiritual one, gentle, kind, a student of a monk. The brothers are torn apart by their father's cruelty and a bitter dispute over inheritance and love, especially when all three are, in some way, entangled with the same woman, Grushenka. Soon, Fyodor Pavlovich is murdered in his own home, and all signs point to Dmitri, the son who swore he'd kill him. He's arrested. He's put on trial. But here's the truth. Dmitri didn't do it. So who did? Was it Ivan, whose philosophy denies morality? Was it Smurikov, the resentful servant? Or was the real killer something deeper? The collapse of values? The decay of the soul? The trial becomes a stage for Dostoevsky's grand questions. Is God necessary for morality? Can reason replace faith? Are humans naturally evil or divine? Each brother isn't just a character. They're symbols. Ivan represents the modern, rational mind, brilliant but tormented. His famous chapter, The Grand Inquisitor, imagines Jesus returning to earth and being rejected by the church itself. Alyosha is the heart, a believer who finds meaning through compassion. He's the disciple of the wise monk Zosima, whose words echo with timeless spiritual truths. Dmitri is torn between pleasure and redemption. He suffers, but maybe suffering leads to truth. And then there's Smurikov, born of sin, ignored, twisted by abuse. His crime isn't just murder. It's the product of a world without love. Dostoevsky asks, if God is dead, is everything permitted? Or is there still hope for the soul? The novel ends not with final answers, but with haunting possibilities. Dmitri is convicted wrongly. Ivan descends into madness. Alyosha takes a group of young boys under his wing, whispering a hope that a better world is possible. Now let's get to the meat of the matter. Who killed Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov? To answer that question, we need to meet our four main characters. Now, before we dive into the characters, I have a confession to make. I'm not much of a gambler. In fact, the only time I ever gambled was in college, when I bet my friend Mike that I could grow a beard faster than he could. Turns out Mike had a genetic advantage, and I ended up looking like a member of the cast of Duck Dynasty by week 3. Anyway, I'm not a gambler, which is why when a gambling company approached me to partner on this episode, I said no. Okay, back to the characters. First up, we have Dmitri Karamazov, the eldest son of Fyodor Pavlovich. Think of Dmitri as a coiled spring, ready to explode at any moment. He's passionate, impulsive, and quick to anger. In fact, he's so hot-headed that he makes threats against his father. I'll kill you, he says, and you think, yeah, right? Just wait till somebody tells social services about those non-stop beatings. Now, you might expect Dostoevsky to write a character like this as a villain, but actually, Dmitri is the hero of the story. He's the embodiment of raw, untamed human emotion. And throughout the novel, Dostoevsky explores whether such a force can be redeemed. Then we have Ivan Karamazov, the second son. If Dmitri is a coiled spring, Ivan is a tightly wound ball of intellectual energy. He rejects traditional religious beliefs and instead bases his views on reason and science. This makes him an atheist, sure, but also a nihilist. In other words, Ivan believes that nothing has any real meaning or value. And this belief leads him to commit an intellectual sin, a failure to act based on moral considerations. It's like refusing to help someone because you don't believe in helping people. And yes, Ivan does eventually snap, ending up in a straitjacket, delirious, muttering, "All this is a consequence of the denial of God." The third brother is Alyosha. While Dmitri and Ivan are brainy intellectuals, Alyosha is the youngest and therefore has more growing up to do. He is still learning about the world, and he does so under the guidance of his father as second wife, the saintly and wise elder Zosima. She's like Yoda, except she's a real person who lived in the late 18th century. Anyway, Alioshka grows up believing in God and traditional morality, making him the representative of faith in the novel. But unlike Ivan, he doesn't use his reason to attack those beliefs. Instead, he seeks to understand them and live according to them. And finally, we have Smurikov. Unlike the first three characters, Smirnov is not related to Fyodor Pavlovich. He's just the son of his former serf, who has stayed in the family as a servant. Now Smurikov is a wild card. Early on in the novel, he seems like a minor character. Plus, he's got a split personality. On the one hand, he's lazy and crass, but on the other hand, he's thoughtful and philosophical. You know, like he's capable of great things. And yes, it turns out he's capable of murdering Fyodor Pavlovich. In fact, after the old man is found dead, Smurikov confesses his crime to Dmitri, saying, "It wasn't you, it was me. I killed him." That confession alone makes Smurikov the most interesting character in the novel. After all, he's committed a crime that everyone else has only thought about. And yet, he seems completely unrepentant. Later, he even tries to take his own life, but that attempt fails. Why does he do it? Well, part of it has to do with Ivan's philosophy. Remember, Ivan thinks that nothing has any real meaning or value, and he applies that idea to himself. If nothing matters, why not end your life? But there's another reason too. Smirnov's story is a tragedy. He's a victim of circumstance. As a child, he was abused by Fyodor Pavlovich, which caused him to develop a split personality. Then he grew up believing that nothing mattered. And ultimately, those two factors drove him to murder. So if Smurikov's case highlights anything, it's the power of environment. But if all four of these characters can be reduced to simple labels like child of abuse or victim of circumstance, then the Brothers Karamazov would be little more than a social issue novel. And Dostoevsky was far too good a writer to limit himself like that. Here's the thing about these characters. They embody universal human experiences. Sure, Smurikov suffered abuse and even turned to nihilism, but how many of us have wrestled with our own demons, our own sense of meaninglessness? How many of us have struggled with our faith or felt alienated from society? These characters aren't just types, they're individuals. Ivan might represent all of humanity, but he's also a distinct creation, a brilliant thinker who grapples with the consequences of his own thoughts. And in the end, that's what makes him so fascinating. In many ways, Dostoevsky himself was like Ivan, a brilliant thinker who grappled with the consequences of his own thoughts. For Dostoevsky, faith was complicated. He believed in God, but he questioned the teachings of the Russian Orthodox Church. And this tension between faith and doubt is everywhere in his work, including the Brothers Karamazov. When Ivan meets with the prosecutor, he explains why he believes that his brother Dmitri is innocent. If there's no God, then everything is permitted. I believe that everything is permissible, and so, consequently, everything is allowable. You see, I dare not say it, but I confess to you that I deny the law of contradiction. So even though Ivan doesn't believe in God, he still believes in the possibility of goodness, the prosecutor asks. And Dostoevsky is asking us whether faith is really necessary for morality. Maybe reason is enough, or maybe reason can lead to chaos. When we look at the three Karamazov brothers, it's easy to see these themes playing out in their relationships. Each brother represents a different approach to life, and each of them struggles in his own way. And that struggle is what makes them so human, so compelling. So which brother are you most like? The hot-headed Dmitri, the intellectual Ivan, or the faithful Alyosha? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to hit that like button.